Greetings, this is Paul the Poke from PaulthePoke.com. Welcome to This Week in Prophecy. One topic this week, Trump. President Trump comes in peace. So I know some of you folks out there, some of you critics, anti-Trumpers, you're probably already upset with this topic. He's not a peace man, blah, 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 blah. However, we're going to take a look at this. Matthew 5, verse 9, Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. So, personally, I take President Trump's word when he says he wants to stop all the wars and the bloodshed. Now, does that make Trump a son of God? Now, if he truly wants the warring factions to stop and is sincerely working toward that end, I would say yes, Donald Trump is a son of God. Now, that said, only God knows Trump's heart and if he's serious about it or not. Is Trump flawed? Yes. Is Trump a believer in Christ? Well, that's going to be between him and his creator. And before everybody gets all fired up, there's no way Donald Trump can be a believer in Christ. Well, I'd encourage people to take a look back at the career and history of one King David in Israel. He was a pretty flawed man, adulterer. Had a man essentially murdered so he could be with his wife. He lied once or twice. And all that said, he was a man after God's heart. And, that was enough for God. I mean, God works constantly with flawed people. We're all flawed, save one. Also, the Apostle Paul, he was far from a kind person. Went around killing believers, rounding them up, having them stoned. Not exactly a nice guy. So just think about those things before everybody rushes to judgment against Trump. Leave that up to that's up to between him and God, but take those things into consideration. Now, all that said, all you Trumpkins out there, that does not make him the Messiah either. I know that upsets you folks as well, who just think Trump walks on water. Well, he doesn't. And I'm wondering if he's not about to make a serious foreign policy error as he relates to Israel. Time will tell on that, but we'll watch. And he's not going to be perfect, but just trying to be honest here and assess exactly what I see through the lens of Scripture. And I'm not going to do that perfectly either, but I'm making a good faith attempt to try to get it accurately as possible. And I think that's all any of us can do. I think there'll come a day when we all come before the throne and meet Christ and his Father and take a look at us like, sorry, you were way off base there. You missed the boat. Fully prepared for that. There's some things we think are just dead right, and we're probably going to be wrong about it, but God will straighten all that out. Main thing is how we relate to his Son relative to our sin. Understand we're not perfect. Understand we are flawed sinners, and he covers that cost for us so we can have union relationship with his Father. That said, President Trump has been calling for peace across the planet over the past week. Israel and Hamas continue to fight. However, President Trump accomplished these things prior to his upcoming trip to the Middle East this week. He's probably in the air as we speak, or landed, or close to it. And this happened today. This was big news Sunday night. Big news today. Trump administration negotiates release of American-Israeli soldier Eden Alexander from Hamas without consulting Israel. So they say. Now that was seen or reported as a gesture of goodwill by Hamas towards Trump. We'll see. With the Houthis in Yemen and the Red Sea. And you can watch this video. He's there with I guess it'd be the Prime Minister of Canada, Carney, made the following announcement. The Houthis have announced that they don't want to fight anymore. They just don't want to fight, and we will honor that, and we will stop the bombings. They have capitulated. They say they will not be blowing up ships anymore. Now, there is some debate as to whether or not that has actually happened. I will grant that. There are still missiles and things flying through the air from Yemen by the Houthis, but they're not directed, well, so they tell us they're not directed at the United States. They seem to be still firing things at Israel. I don't recommend that for them either. And some people are questioning whether or not this was actually just something Trump said, or has it been enforced? Is it real? Do your own homework on that. There is this statement out of Oman. A spokesman at the foreign ministry has said today that the following recent discussions and conducts conducted by the Sultanate of Oman with the United States and the relevant authorities in Sana'a in the Republic of Yemen with the aim of de-escalation efforts have resulted in a ceasefire agreement between the two sides. In the future, neither side will target the other, including American vessels in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandab Strait, ensuring freedom of navigation and the smooth flow of international commercial shipping. The Sultanate of Oman expressed its gratitude to both parties for their constructive approach that led to this welcome outcome and hopes that it will lead to further progress on many regional issues towards achieving justice, peace, and prosperity for all. There we go, peace and prosperity. Ought to make you a little nervous. We're going to talk about that a little later. But isn't that funny? We have somebody from Oman brokering a ceasefire between the United States and the Houthis in Yemen. Curious. In Iran, Al-Mayadeen reports a dispute between Tehran and Washington in the indirect talks, centered on Iran's right to enrich uranium. The channel claims the U.S. has backed away from previous positions about enrichment. I'm kind of like open source intel. I have my doubts about that too, because I hear Trump and many members of the United States delegations saying that that's non-negotiable. Iran just cannot be able to enrich uranium. But nonetheless, the United States under Trump's leadership is out there trying to negotiate peace. Now, granted, if you listen to Trump and Rubio and Vance and others, they continue to enrich uranium and want to continue to develop nuclear weapons. We will have no choice but to blow them up. As Trump said, we can blow them up. I don't know. I forget the term. Or bottom line, in both cases, they were going to be blown up. Their nuclear program. I don't know how much of a negotiation ploy that is, but the U.S. position is you have the option to not get blown up. Stop with the uranium enrichment in your nuclear program. India and Pakistan. This was a big one Saturday. I think it was Saturday morning. It's from Trump War Room. New statement from the peace president, Donald J. Trump. I mean, he's claiming he's a peace man. After a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And again, many people question whether or not they have truly stopped fighting between India and Pakistan. In fact, this post was going to be about all the destruction that was taking place between India and Pakistan until this happened Saturday morning. So here's another tweet that was that went out Saturday. I'm very proud of the strong and unwaveringly powerful leadership of India and Pakistan for having the strength, wisdom, and fortitude to fully know and understand that it was time to stop the current aggression that could have led to the death and destruction of so many and so much. Millions of good and innocent people could have died. Your legacy is greatly enhanced by your brave actions. I am proud that the USA was able to help you arrive at this historic and heroic decision. While not discussed, I'm going to increase trade substantially with both of these great nations. And I think that's going to be the carrot in a lot of these talks, is open access to the United States economy. Be a partner with the United States. You can have access to Americans who are willing to spend money. Additionally, I will work with you both to see if, after 1,000 years, a solution can be arrived at concerning Kashmir. God bless the leadership of India and Pakistan on a job well done. So, again, he's reaching out in peace to stop the key conflict zone between these two countries, which is Kashmir, which would be in the northern parts of India and northwest India. That'd be northeast Pakistan is what we're looking at. And this is from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Over the past 48 hours, him and Vance engaged with senior Indian and Pakistani officials, including Prime Ministers Modi and Sharif, External Affairs Minister Mr. J. I guess that'd be Jai Shankar, Chief of Army Staff Munir, National Security Advisors Doval and Malik. I am pleased to announce the governments of India and Pakistan have agreed to an immediate ceasefire and to start talks on a broad set of issues at a neutral site. We commend Prime Ministers Modi and Sharif on their wisdom, prudence, and statesmanship in choosing the path of peace. And that's from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Let's go to Russia and Ukraine. Again, President Trump putting this out on social media. President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey. And I didn't put this up, but Erdogan's out there tweeting. He's called both of them in preparation for these peace talks. So now we got Recep Erdogan of Turkey got a broker peace between Ukraine and Russia. And it's no big deal. I mean, he fancies himself as the leader of the Sunni Muslim rule. I mean, he's the man. He sees himself as the caliphate of the Sunni branch of Islam. That's Erdogan of Turkey. And he tells, back to Trump, Trump tells Ukraine should agree to this immediately, all caps. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And if it's not, European leaders in the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. So he's effectively telling them, look here, I'm ready for my next move if you choose not to sign this. So then he states, I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin. Putin's too busy celebrating the victory of World War II, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now, says Trump. Putting some pressure on him. Reminder, we did sign an agreement, precious rare earth minerals, and with Ukraine about a week ago. Let's go to China and tariffs. U.S. Trade Rep, we're confident that the deal we struck with our Chinese partners will help us to work toward resolving the trade deficit. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, I'm happy to report that we made substantial progress. We will be giving details tomorrow, which is today. Tariffs, like China's tariff got slashed down to 25%. Our tariff with China is charging us only 10% now. And China effectively admitted publicly they didn't take Biden seriously, but they have come to understand that, well, maybe Trump means what he's saying. And so they were ready to talk with us. So they threw Biden under the bus. Kind of funny. Stock market loved it. Up big today. 3 to 4%, depending on the index. Gold went down, dollar went up, interest rates started going up, crypto went up. We'll see what happens. And I would think too. Now Trump's good at this. He knows how to put a good foot forward and market and promote. I've called him in the past a modern day P.T. Barnum, but that dude knows how to get publicity and use it. He's very good at that. So, good day for him as he got a prisoner of war, or I don't know if that's not fair. They got a prisoner from Hamas's invasion of Israel, a citizen that they had taken from Israel. Got him back, who was dual citizenship, Israeli, United States. Framework of a trade deal with China. We'll see. He's had a good few days. And with that, I'm going to transition to do not be lulled into comfort by all these peace and security talks. There are people and countries on this planet who want war. I mean, they want to fight. One example, such as the sons of Ishmael, they just like to fight, and they've been fighting for centuries and millennia. Genesis 16, verse 12, he will be a wild donkey of a man, and his hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. He will live in hostility toward all his brothers. And that's what Arabs, that's their history. And you think about that, Abraham kicked Hagar out of the camp with Ishmael. That probably, and just left him. That probably didn't go too well. So, those two had and rightfully so, a bit of a burr in their saddle towards Abraham and Sarah in that line, which would become Israel. And so you had the Arabs against Israel. That's how it got started. And you have that much animosity built up over, 3,000 years now, loosely? Yeah, they're mad. They're both mad at each other. They don't know anything different. And then you got people who they make way too much money by manufacturing, selling weapons, support war, and the greed of some is more powerful than peaceful existence. I mean, they're making their money at the expense of war and death. And that's worth it to some people. They just put money over people. First Thessalonians 5, verses 1 through 3. I think this is a good reminder to us. Now, about the times and seasons, brothers, we do not need to write you. So Paul's telling us we should know this. You should know these things. You're fully aware that the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. It should not come as a surprise to believers. If we read the good book, if we know what the prophets and what Jesus say about the times prior to his coming, this should not be a surprise to us. And while people are saying peace and security, destruction will come upon them suddenly, like labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. So when we start to hear people talking about peace and security, that's the time when you need to really start paying attention. Because it's not going to be a real peace. It's not going to be real security. For the reasons we've been talking about this entire post. People like to fight. There's money to be made. There's ancient, bitter rivalries between peoples. And, at the core of it, if two people really want to get along, there's going to have to be forgiveness. And whether that's nations, people, relationships, whatever, if you have one person who is not willing to do that, it's not going to happen. And that other person can have the best of intentions and desperately want to do it. But if you do not have a person on the other end, or a country on the other end, who is willing to, forgive and move forward, let alone the fact that they're probably a pretty good agitator in the situation between the two parties. But that mindset's not interested in looking inward at their own issues. They're too fixated on the hate directed at another. Somebody somewhere is going to have to say, hey, let's stop it, forgive, and move forward. And it takes two parties to do that. And one party can be, hey, I'm all for it, I want to do it. But if the other party does not want to do it, it is not going to happen. And do you think collectively, just look at the Arab-Israeli situation. Do you think either one of those parties are willing to forgive the other at this point? And you talk about that with just relationships between people when they're broken. Can two parties truly forgive and move forward? Because that's the issue. Because both parties are wrong. Both parties have issues. Neither party's perfect. But can both parties truly forgive and move forward? And that's just, to me, that's the heart of the matter. And again, if one doesn't want to, it doesn't matter how bad the other one wants to. It's not going to happen. We'll see. One person will come and set this whole thing straight. Now, he will conduct some serious judgment and will weed out all the nonsense and will start fresh. And then we'll deal with its own set of issues with the remaining humanity in its current sinful condition. But Jesus he'll do it. That's why it's going to be 7 years of hell on earth to get to a point where he can move forward and lead. But it'll happen. And, at the backdrop, and this is the backdrop of our world today, and I'm going to take a look at what's going on with Israel and its neighbors. Israel continues with Operation Swords of Iron in Gaza. And all these summaries are provided by Grok, by the way, AI on X. Military actions involve airstrikes, ground incursions, and control of strategic areas like Netzarim Corridor and Morag Axis. Recent escalations, that's in this month, May 2025, include plans to capture the entire Gaza Strip. I'm thinking they're planning on retaking it. Israel continues military action in Yemen against the Houthis. Now, although the United States and the Houthis have agreed to stop firing missiles at each other, not the case with Israel and the Houthis. May 5th through 7th, so this is earlier in the week, following a Houthi ballistic missile attack on Ben Gurion Airport on May 4th, which injured 8 and damaged infrastructure, Israel launched massive airstrikes on Houthi-controlled Sana'a Airport and Hodeidah Port. Strikes disabled the airport, destroyed civilian aircraft, caused $500 million in damages, according to Houthi claims. Israel coordinated with the U.S., targeting military infrastructure to weaken Houthi capabilities. That port is useless. And the airport, pretty useless. I mean, they've got nothing to export anything at this point. Israel continues military action in Lebanon. Ongoing operations. April and May of this year, Israel continued strikes on Hezbollah weapon sites, including a missile storage facility in Dahiya. That's April 27, 2025. Arms depot in the Bekaa Valley and Shrifa. These targeted Hezbollah's efforts to rebuild military infrastructure, was Israel claimed violated ceasefire terms. So, in closing, when you hear wars and rebellions, do not be alarmed. These things must happen first, but the end is not imminent. So, Jesus says it's not close yet. But Paul says when you start to hear him talk about the end of the fighting, that's when you need to start really paying attention. That's when we're starting to get closer. Now, we still don't have a 10-nation federation. You know, the beast, end times empire from Revelation, Daniel's statue, iron and clay toes, 10 toes. Still don't have a temple. May or may not see the building of the temple, but they're ready to build it. They just need some political clearance. I'm still open to the idea we may or may not see the temple, third temple built prior to us being raptured. I know that's a very controversial take, but I'm going to go there. Lots of stuff that needs to happen. Now we start seeing some of these things fall into place, and they get clearance. The Jews get clearance to build the third temple, and we see 10 nations emerge. The traditional teaching on that is will come out of Europe, a revised Roman Empire, 10 nations somewhere. So that'd leave like 3 major empires, which would include Russia and friends, China, kings of the East. India's going to fit in there somewhere. And then you would think Western civilization will have something to say with the beast. They'll be the worst of the ones that ever come along. So we'll see. We'll watch. Keep watching. Keep reporting. Anyway, appreciate everybody taking the time to follow along here. Appreciate everybody sharing at PaulthePoke.com. In closing, yours truly got a nasty gram for Facebook because I associated with somebody who did not uphold their community standards. I was okay, but I was punished because I utilized somebody as a source of information who does not adhere to Facebook community standards. So I got a little nasty gram from him today, but we'll keep doing our thing. Oh well. Appreciate everybody. Take care. Have a great evening. Bye.